Okay, part number 2 is basically talking about the Node application that I plan on starting. I published that on GitHub. You can find it on github.com/node_example. I've already cloned it here, and now I will be talking to you about it. So this is basically just the main application. I actually added some comments so you understand what's going on. So let's just run down from top to bottom. First, I am basically importing the HTTP module so we can create a HTTP server in Node quite easily. Then I am going to read the port from the environmental variables. And if none are set, I am going to default to port 3000. Then we are going to read the environment basically by reading node_env, which is another environmental variable. And if that is unset, we are going to default to development. Then I'm also going to do the same for a password. And that will give us all the information that we need to start our service. After that, we are going to set up a request handler. That is for every request that we are going to send to this little HTTP server, we are going to respond with this. Afterwards, we of course have to start the server and then have to create a sock listen so that we are basically listening on a port. So by default, it's port 3000, but if you remember in the last video, I mapped port 12345. So we will be passing that on to the application on Jenkins, and we will be starting it up on port 12345. Then I'm simply just doing a simple if there are any errors. So in case, for example, I want to start up, but another application is already listening on the port, then I'm getting some sort of notification like, okay, something bad happened. And last but not least, I am going to log that the server is now listening on port, so that we, in case we have to troubleshoot and we start up our stuff, we have logs where we can see that it now started up and it should be available. Okay, what I also added is a package JSON, which just defines a start command. So if you want to manually start it, you can start it here. I am using PM2, which is a process monitor node module. So it can basically start up the node process for you. And if you close the shell, it's going to remain running online. It also has features like to start up the stuff after rebooting the server. Of course, I need to define this as a dependency. So npm knows how to install and get that. Then we have a so-called ecosystem file. This is used by PM2. And in here, we basically define how PM2 is going to start up our application. It's going to start it by running the server.js. It's going to give it an internal name. So this one is called node_example-app. With the instances, you can define how many processes it's going to launch. So most people use a single core for Node. But if you have a system with multiple cores, you can use PM2 to run multiple processes or threads across the cores. And PM2 will also manage load balancing the connections between these. I am also going to disable the watch flag. So the watch flag means that if you upload files, PM2 can automatically restart your node process, but I don't need that here. And then I'm going to define my 3 different environments. So I usually use 3 types of environments: development, staging, and production. Development is basically running it locally on the dev system. Staging is often before I push it out to production, just a different system running the same stuff with a sort of production-like database. So I can test if all the changes would work with the data, and then the production environment. And then we also have a Jenkins file. And the Jenkins file will define how we are going to execute our build. So in this example, we have a very, very simple Jenkins file. You usually have multiple stages, And we just have one stage, which is now called build, and that will start up our application. So let's start at the beginning. If you remember here, in each environment, we define the node environment and the port. But if you remember here, we have the port, the environment, and the password. So you may ask why I do not put the password in here. It's very simple, because I do not want to have passwords in the GitHub repository. So I will be using Jenkins. Jenkins has a credentials section where you can enter password. It sort of encrypts them and stores them. And when you execute the Jenkins project, it can basically hide all the password output, which keeps the passwords away from the developers as much as it can. You can then see we basically go into the building stage, and then I define environments. And this is where I define the password by reading it from the credentials manager. And the ID of that password is example password 1. Above that, I'm also setting the Jenkins node cookie to don't kill, which is a thing. If you start up stuff with Jenkins, it mostly expect it to run a test, and afterwards it's going to send a sick term so that the application will be killed. If we set this little environmental variable, it will not be killed at the end. So we can use Jenkins to start up the server, keep it running, and then when we push changes, it will basically restart the service. But in the meantime, we can use it and test it. So then we go to the actual steps, which is how the stuff is being executed. So first we run a npm install, which looks at the package.json, sees what dependencies we are having, and will install these. And after that, it is then going to run a start command of pm2. You noticed I specified a local path, because basically the npm install will install the pm2 inside the node modules folder inside pm2 bin pm2. And then I just run the command relative to the root directory of this project. And in this example, I am going to start it with the production environment. But you could change that however you want to. But yeah, that is basically the base project. And in the next part, I am going to explain how to set it up in Jenkins.